Hello, bunny fans. Welcome to another episode of the Bunny Coach podcast. Very excited to be talking to you about this because this is a question a lot of people have. How am I going to make this fit with my lifestyle? I'm so busy. And also, what on earth is the difference between 24/7 daytime and date bonding? It can be very confusing. And you see a lot of people saying, oh, you should do this and you should do that. And then I don't think there's this one way to do everything, as you might know by now. So let me talk you through the pros and cons of each one. I'm Fiona. I am the bunny coach. I live in Dublin in Ireland. I've been doing small animal boarding since 2014. So I care for hundreds of rabbits and also guinea pigs, hamsters, reptiles like lizards, pygmy hedgehogs, tortoises, hamsters, gerbils, degus, chinchillas, anything like that we care for. We started in 2014 when we couldn't find somebody to look after our bunnies, and they're quite specialist. So we thought other people must have the same problem, and they did. And then in 2016, one of my customers asked me to bond their bunnies because they were desperate and they were in a situation like I'm sure some of you are in, where they can't keep the two rabbits separately. It's just a logistical nightmare for everybody. And they were really, desperate to get these bunnies bonded. And at that point, gosh, it's nearly 10 years ago. At that point, I knew the theory of it, but I had never done the practical bonding. So I said, if you want to let me have a go, I will. Can't guarantee anything. But I did, and it worked. And I've been doing it ever since. So now I've bonded over 280 sets of bunnies, pairs, trios, and the odd quad. I don't bond any more than that because I only do 5 days bonding at a time. That's all I'm able to commit to with everything else I have going on, the boarding and everything. And bigger groups normally need more time before they go home. So I don't do that, but I do offer online support for people bonding bunnies. And I have helped people bond 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 bunnies as well. So I started offering online support during COVID. Some of my boarding customers adopted a second rabbit during COVID because they were aware they were going back to work and they realized their bunnies were lonely and then ran into problems when they were bonding them. So I started offering phone calls to help people. And it's just grown from there. And I now offer Zoom calls and bonding membership and all sorts of different kinds of help. So no matter what kind of help you need or how much support you need, I also do classes and that. So you can do it self-study. And I now offer it around the world. I've worked with people all over the world, America, Canada, Australia, Israel, all parts of Europe and the UK. So yeah, so everywhere. Zoom makes the world very small, which is great because I can help people around the world get their bunnies loved up. And I know a lot of people run into issues because there's so much overwhelming information online and it's all very conflicting, which is very confusing. So sometimes you just need somebody to go, here's a step-by-step guide, do this, then do this, then do this, and then support you around analysing the behaviours and how to deal with them, that kind of stuff. So that is what I do, and I love to do it because there's nothing more satisfying than seeing the bunnies loved up and happy. I was just on a call a few minutes ago with my 8-week challenge. People, and there's a lady there and she's on her second 8-week challenge with me because she really had problems with her bunnies at the beginning. It was a tough bond. But now the one who was nervous is now grooming and snuggling the other one and they're free roaming in the house. And it's just in the last week or two, things have just turned around for her and she's just so pleased. And it was just lovely to see. So very rewarding job to do. I do really enjoy it. I'm a big believer in thinking outside the box. You look at this, online and it says, oh, this is the one process that works. But I really don't think that's the case. And I have a 98% success rate, largely because I'm more stubborn than bunnies, but also largely because I think outside the box. Today, we're going to talk about making the time to bond, how to make time to make bonding fit your busy lifestyle. Okay, so you might have seen online, particularly in one of the free Facebook groups, they're quite militant and you must do 4 hours a day bonding. This is not very practical when you are living your life. You have other responsibilities. Our bunnies are our world. Yes, they are, but we do have other things going on. We do have to go to work every day. A lot of us, we have family responsibilities. We've got kids or elderly parents or things that we need to get done. And it's very difficult to fit 4 hours in. And I quite often have people coming to me and they're exhausted and they're on the Zoom call and they're saying, I'm bonded till 1 a.m. by the time I get home and get my dinner and then get the rabbits into the pen and then I'm just exhausted. And I don't think that's good for the bunnies either. They really do pick up on our emotions. So if you're tired, you're not going to have the same level of patience and they can be quite tired as well. So I am a big believer in making bonding fit your lifestyle. So there are different ways to do it. A lot of people that work with me actually only do an hour or 2 hours in the evening after work, and then they do longer hours on the weekend. And most people are done within 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes less. Now, of course, as the process goes on, you do eventually have to switch to going overnight with them. But by the time you get to that stage, you're not having to sit on top of the pen in the same way as you were at the beginning. And you're able to potter around and do things and just keep an ear on them. So it's much easier as the process goes on to put the hours in. It's just at the start that it's much harder. So I don't like seeing people stress themselves out, thinking they have to do these 4 hours and otherwise it's not going to work. So that's how I recommend that a lot of people do it. Very much depends on your own work schedule. If you're working from home, it's possible that you could set up the pen next to where your desk is, and then you might be able to get some more hours done depending on what your work is and whether you can up and down to deal with the bunnies if you need to. If you're not working or you can take some time off, that's ideal as well because you can put longer hours into it. And basically, the more time you put into it, the quicker the process will be, generally speaking. Of course, can't guarantee with anybody's particular bunnies how long it will take because it's all down to their personalities and the sum of their personalities and the dynamic between them. But the more time you can put into it, especially at the start when things are more fractious between them, the quicker it'll go. But they will still get there if you take it slower. So even if you can't do long days at the weekend and you can only do an hour or two at the weekend, or you have to miss days, that's okay. Consistency is important. So I always say if you can do a little bit each day, if it's just half an hour, that's great. But there will be days when you can't do it, and there's no point stressing yourself out over that. Just pick up where you left off the day you get back to it. But they'd still get there if you do it slower like that. So obviously, if you could put 24/7 at it, that might only take you 3 or 4 weeks. It might not even take you that long. If you're only putting an hour, 2 hours in, it might take you 3, 4, 5 months. But that's okay if that works for you and it's not stressing you out. So do something that fits your lifestyle and don't panic about it. There's a way to make it work for you. So there are different bonding options. You might have seen this online as well. So you can do dates, you can do daytime, or you can do 24/7. So there are pros and cons to each, but the important thing is you can change it if you need to. So don't think that because you've started 24/7 that you have to keep doing that if it's not working for you or the rabbits. Don't think that if you're doing short dates that you need to stick with that. You can change it up. So it's not set in stone. So just start with whatever you think is going to work for you and then just do your best each day. So the differences are the date system is where you do short dates with your bunnies. And in theory, what happens is that you gradually build up the time that the bunnies are spending together. Don't really recommend this except for the people. For the rabbits, I don't think that it really benefits them. And that's because they're just kind of getting used to each other and then you're taking them back out of the pen again. And they might not even have hardly noticed there's another rabbit in there. Or they might go the other way where they're just like, oh my gosh, there's another rabbit, and they've gone into fight mode. And then you're separating them after they've had a fight. And that's what they remember then going into the pen the next day. I'm helping a lady at the moment and she started out doing the dates and she was just doing 10 minutes a day. And she did that for a few weeks because that's what somebody recommended on one of the groups. And now she's going, I should have just put more hours into it at the beginning because I thought that's what I had to do. And I could have put more hours into it, but I thought that's what I had to do. And now it's taken me forever and I feel like I've been bonding forever. So she's much happier and she's now gone 24/7. She did an overnight last night. I'm delighted with her and the bunnies were good. So she's very nearly there, which is brilliant. However, if you are anxious about bonding, which a lot of us are, which is very normal, I was saying yesterday, even when I start the week with bunnies, when I'm bonding them, I often don't know the bunnies. They've just been booked in for bonding. And I'm always a little bit anxious at the start of the week. I don't know how it's going to go. You know, you're anxious because you've never done it before, or if you have, you've had a negative experience with it. So very normal to be anxious about it. And if you feel that way about it, sometimes dates at the start can be really helpful because you can just say to yourself, right, I'm just going to do 15 minutes or 20 minutes. And then I'm going to have a glass of wine or a cup of tea, or I'm going to go for a walk, or I'm going to reward myself in some way afterwards. And I'll have done what I need to do to just get started. So that is absolutely fine. And as your confidence gets better, you can then extend the time and you will gradually get to a stage where you're able to work through a little bit longer at a time. So that's the date process. And your dates can be whatever length you want them to be. And that can be, you know, an hour a day. It can be 2 hours a day. It can be 15 minutes. It can be 4 hours, whatever you want it to be. The daytime option is what I use when I'm bonding here. So basically what you do is you start early in the morning and you run all through the day. And ideally, if you can do 10 or 12 hours a day, that will make a massive difference to your bunnies. I like this system because what I find with the 24/7 and what I've heard from a lot of people, sometimes the bunnies don't like the 24/7 and sometimes they need that time apart to decompress. And sometimes you need them to have the time apart so that you can get a rest and a break from it and you don't feel like your life is taken over completely. And also, it is very important to watch your bunnies for gut stasis, not to scare anybody, but bonding can be stressful. There is a larger risk of gut stasis than on a day-to-day basis if they get stressed. And a lot of bunnies don't, by the way. They might be a little bit stressed with it. And we're trying to make it as unstressful as possible, by the way. But a lot of bunnies are not prone to gut stasis. But it is nice to put them back in their pen at night time and go, okay, you're eating and you're pooping. Because when they're in the pen together, sometimes you can't tell who's eating or how much they're eating, and you can't necessarily tell who's pooping. So it does give you that little bit of reassurance as well that they're okay. I had a pair of bunnies in here once, and one of the rabbits spent their first day non-stop pumping. And I'm not joking, it seemed like it was non-stop, to the extent that I was like, is this rabbit actually neutered? Because I really don't know. Luckily, the other rabbit put up with it. And obviously, I took the bunny off when I felt it was being excessive, but he was just quite determined. And at the end of day one, I put him back in his pen. And I got up the next morning and I put them back in together, and he plunked himself down beside the other rabbit and cuddled him. And that was it. There wasn't a peep out them all the rest of the week. It was like as if he processed it and went, and that's done now. I don't need to do that anymore. Now, it doesn't always work that way, but I do believe that they process things overnight and they need that little bit of time apart. And if your rabbit is anxious, or your rabbit is, rescue rabbit, or has been through a traumatic time, or maybe lost their bunny husband or wife, sometimes for them it can be too much, but the overnight separate can make a big difference. Again, as I said, ultimately at the end, you're going to need to do 24/7 because you need to make sure they're okay together overnight, but you don't necessarily need to do that at the beginning. It works fine not to do it. So what I do is 5 days, daytime. I do around 50 to 60 hours across the week. And then the rabbits go home into 24/7 because they're ready for that and the owners are set for it. And then that's it. They're together all the time. So that works quite well. So 24/7 then is basically where you go, we're just going to get this done. And you put the rabbits together and you don't separate them and you just keep going through. Now, I'm saying you don't separate them, but I wonder how many people actually do give them a bit of free roam time in between, because when I was doing 24/7, I've got migraines, so I now don't offer that. But when I did do 24/7, I did sometimes get them out of the pen and let them stretch their legs separately in different rooms because they weren't ready for free roaming together. But I felt they needed to stretch and get a little bit of space from each other and stretch their legs. So in theory, it's 24/7, but it could be 23 hours a day and they have an hour free roaming. And that's okay too, if you give them a little break. So the advantage of that is that you allow time for it. You might take some time off work, or maybe you've got holidays or you're not working, and you just get it done. And it does tend to be quicker because the rabbits are together all the time. It is kind of throwing them in the deep end a little bit, but a lot of rabbits are okay with that. And because they're together all the time and they don't have any separation time except for the bit of free roam, they're not going back into their own pens. They go, okay, this is the way things are now. Okay. And then they just get on with it. So that can be a good advantage of the 24/7. And I'm not saying to anybody don't do it, but I do find that a lot of people can get quite tired with it. It can be helpful if you have somebody who could help you, that even you could do half the night and they could do half the night, something like that, or let you take breaks during the day. So if you have somebody that can help you to do that, at least initially, that can be really helpful. But you need to trust them that they'll know when to step in. You need to be on the same page with when you're going to step in as well. Because if they're doing something different to you when you're not there, then that's going to undo your hard work. So 24/7 can be fine. It can work very well. If that's the time you have to do it, then absolutely give it a go. But if you find once you started that you're exhausted and it's not working, then step back and do daytime instead, or dates, and then build up. So again, it's not set in stone. You can change it up if you need to. Nothing wrong with starting it and trying it. I like the daytime and then the 24/7, but that doesn't mean that that's what works for you. So that's the advantage and disadvantages of each one. To find something that works for you and then be prepared to switch it up if you need to. So be realistic about how long this will take and what fits into your lifestyle, and make a plan. So generally speaking, bonding will take anywhere between a few weeks and several months, and depending on how the bunnies go. Sometimes they do fall in love straight away, and I've seen it happen. And it can be that most of it is out the way within a couple of weeks, but it can take a lot longer than that if the bunnies are having issues, if you've got rabbits that both want to be dominant at the start, or if they're not that compatible, sometimes it can take longer. So you do have to, I suppose, be prepared for the worst case scenario. Absolutely look at the best case scenario as well. But do think, if this was to go on for a few weeks, what is my plan here? How am I going to make this fit in my lifestyle? So I don't think that you need to put your life on hold because you do have other things going on, but you do need to commit to it, because if you don't and you're not consistent with it, then you're just going to spend ages doing it and you just don't need to. So do kind of go, okay, well, what can I put on hold for a few weeks while I get this done? What can I not put on hold? Okay, let's work around that and have a bit of plan in your head, because that kind of helps as well. Because otherwise you're just drifting from day to day and you're thinking it's just gone on forever. Even if it's not, it can seem like it is. Hard to see the wood for the trees. So I think it helps to make a plan. To be flexible as well, though, make your plan. But if something comes up on a particular day and you really can't, you're not well, or you're feeling stressed, then don't do it, because the bunnies will pick up on that. Then just go, okay, let's just do a shorter session today, or let's skip today and move on. Again, consistency is key. If you do most days, it does make a difference. If you take a break of a few days to a week to a couple of weeks, they can take a little step back. So try not to do that if you can help it. Sometimes they're okay and sometimes they take a step back, but the hours you've done up to that point will help. They definitely will help, and they're not forgotten, but they might feel like they need to reestablish the dominance again. So it's probably best if you can not skip days if you can help, but don't put too much pressure on yourself either. If you're going on holiday, might not be a great time to bond. If you start it and then you are having to take a break, or you really feel the pressure to have the rabbits bonded. I've often had people come to me and say, oh, I'm going on holiday in a few weeks and I want the rabbits bonded because it's going to be easier for the person who's looking after them to have just one pen, or it's going to be cheaper for me if I'm sending them to boarding when they're together. Perfectly legitimate. But the problem with that is that you're putting a lot of pressure on yourself, and the rabbits don't necessarily agree with your timescale. Sadly, you can't rush them. So absolutely have it in mind for your holiday if you want to do it. Do bear in mind that if you're only partway through the process, it's probably best to separate them all together rather than have somebody doing some bonding for you and maybe not on the same page as you, like I was saying a minute ago, or them being together in a different situation where things might kick off because there's somebody different in the house feeding them, or they're gone to a boarding place where there might be other bunnies around, or somebody different caring for them and it's a different environment. So they really need to be quite solidly bonded before they come to boarding or before you go away. So absolutely try it and see. But if you get to that stage and you're not 1,000,000% sure that they're going to be okay, it would be best to stop, pause, and then put them back together when you get back. Better to be safe than sorry than injuring each other while you're gone. And then just pick up where you left off. And again, might take a little step backwards, but they might not. One of the ladies in Mate Me Challenge was gone for a week and the rabbits went to boarding. And she was worried sick about how they were going to be when she got them back. And when she got them home, it was like they'd missed each other. And they were like, oh, there you are, I've missed you. And they were fine. They flew through the rest of the process. Other bunnies I know don't, and they do take a step back, but you just pick up where you left off and you just get going again. Is there a minimum amount of time that you should be bonding per day? Again, I don't think so. I think do your best every day. The more hours you put in, the better it's going to go, but don't stress yourself out. Another very important thing that you don't ever see online, care for yourself during bonding. This can be a stressful process. Even if it's not that stressful, it's still time consuming, it's tiring, and your brain is kind of always on the bunnies. Are they okay? What are they doing? How are they getting on? Are they making any progress? So make sure you look after yourself. So make sure that you feed yourself properly before you start bonding. If you're doing 24/7, organize yourself so you have your meal plan sorted. Do your shopping beforehand so that you don't have to stop and leave the house. If you're doing other kinds of bonding, make sure you get enough rest. Make sure you go to bed at a proper time. Make sure you get up at a proper time so that you're not exhausted. Don't be shortening your night's sleep if you can help it, because I think sleep is so important. Make sure you take a walk after bonding or before bonding. Get some fresh air, get some sun on your face. Make sure you're eating properly. And ideally, if you can have somebody in the house with you when you're bonding, that's ideal because they can watch them for you while you go and have a shower or go to the bathroom or whatever. If it's just you bonding, just a quick tip on that. Put the carriers beside the bonding pen, and if you have to go to the bathroom, just take them out and put them into the carriers separately so you know they're safe. Don't leave them in the bonding pen, and don't leave one in the bonding pen, because if you just lift one out, the other one will go, oh, this is my pen. And when you put the other one back in, they're going to go, yeah, you're not welcome anymore. So do take both of them out. So that can help as well. But really important for you just to make sure you look after yourself and get some time out with your partner or with your friends or whatever as well, with balancing it with your time for your bonding, because if you're stressed and overtired, the bunnies will pick up on that. So try to look after yourself. It's very important. So do bear in mind as well, it might not be as bad or take as long as you think. Just a little bit of encouragement for you there at the end. Because what I find is that people see the worst case scenario online where the rabbits have injured each other, or people will say, oh, it took me 2 years to bond my rabbits or a year to bond my rabbits. I wonder if it really did take them a year, whether they were stopping and starting or they were only putting in a little bit of time each day, you know? So take it with a pinch of salt when you see things online, because quite often it's not as bad as we think it's going to be. It's not necessarily going to take as long as you think. And it's not necessarily going to be as horrific as you have it in your head as it's going to be. Sometimes bunnies do bond fairly easily, and I'm here for you if you need more help and more support. I can help you even if you don't know where to start, even if you're having trouble analysing and knowing how to react to the behaviours. I can help you even if your bunnies have fought before, even if they've injured each other really badly. I've bonded lots of bunnies where they have injured each other in the past. Even if you're doing 24/7 or daytime or the date method, doesn't matter to me. Even if you're in another time zone, you're nervous about bonding, or how many rabbits you're bonding.
If you're struggling with bunny bonding and have run into problems, or you just don't know where to start, you're overwhelmed with conflicting information online and would love some actual guidance from somebody who knows what they're doing, please check out my website, thebunnybondingcoach.com. I have bonded over 280 sets of rabbits myself, and have also helped many people around the world bond their bunnies with my online help.
See you next time.